Love that.
Yo, Yesenia, what's up?
What's up? I'm actually in another meeting, so wait, hold on.
Love this.
Hold
Love.
on. I'm coming back in a sec. I just wanted to show my face.
Yo, do your thing. Do your thing. Oh,
I love
that's
it.
cool. Yo, Alyssa, how's the grind?
Just working on equitable vaccine distribution around the country. So, it's not going well, but we're trying. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the grind is going. Yo, how are things across the pond, homie?
I mean, same old,
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully, the food is getting better. I'm finding the
Love
spot,
that.
just because at first I was just like, oh, fuck this English food. And I was like, the English food, they got their strengths.
Love that. I saw the meat pie you enjoy. So they do well on the meat pies.
They do well on the meat pies.
Love that.
You know what I'm saying?
They're seasoned well?
Yes.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Well, like, is it just meat in the crust? Like, is the gravy on point? Like,
oh yeah, but again, it depends. See, this is the thing that I have realized about the English. This shit ain't consistent. Some people know about salt and pepper, other people don't.
Dang, not the basic seasonings. Not salt and pepper.
You know what I'm saying?
Hate to see it.
I'm just like, you can see why their descendants be like fucking putting, mayonnaise on everything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Hate that. Truly hate to see
it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Oh man, who's the person with the blonde locks?
This is Fred Lean.
Yo,
hi everybody.
Fred's on our team is going to be performing in the show.
Oh, okay, cool. That's what's up.
That's what's up.
Yo, love that.
Nice to meet everybody on the call.
Yo, what's up, Fred Lean?
Hey.
Are you is your name Haitian?
I am Haitian. Yes.
Hey. Yeah, I saw that last name and I was like, oh, I already know.
It's a giveaway.
Love that.
Yo, love that. That's dope. Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure. I'm excited for this conversation.
Ooh, just gonna keep it 100,
Yeah.
I actually have a question because I just saw that this is being recorded and I was just like, this is being recorded in my kitchen, the way I look. I mean, I look fine, but it's just like, what do you want to know? It's gonna land somewhere else on the internet. It's gonna be recorded and put on the Celebrate Field Day website, so it will be live. If you don't want to be on the camera, okay. Then I would say just take your camera off, but we'd love to still have you participate in the conversation. But I would like stay with my camera on until this starts. I don't know if this is already started. I just jumped in, but then at some point I would turn off my camera because I was not prepped for that. Sorry, I did not. No, but you look beautiful, first of all. Well, but actually, also, whatever you want to do whatever you want to do. Thank you. I just don't like to share my home in the internet. Yeah, no, that's real.
That's real. That's totally real. But your plants are looking delicious, though.
Yes, healthy, nutritious.
Right. Even though I'm pretty sure that they're not fruit bearing plants, right?
I'm cooking Colombian food, so there's a lot of.
Hey! yes. We got some good cuisines on this call. We got always got the soul food, but we got.
Are you Colombian?
Colombian.
Me too. No way. Oh, now I'm just reading the name, Ana Maria Cuero. Yeah, that's a cool. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Funny. I know. Born and bred in Cali. Okay. Yeah. My mom is from Bogota. That's the white side of my family. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started.
Love self-awareness. Love to see it all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the truth. It's what I'm working with. Okay, let me introduce myself, and then I'll introduce Saifa, and then we'll just jump right in to the conversation. Cool? All right. So I love, first of all, that it's been like a family conversation so far. Definitely down for us to keep talking in this way. Keep the camera on if you'd like to. You don't have to. It's up to you. I am Ana Maria Guerra Johanna, so you can just call me Ana. I am the director of Field Day, and Field Day is a project to reimagine track and field for Black, queer, and trans people. It is an idea that I had many years ago coming from my own personal experiences as being a track and field athlete. I'm a jumper, I was a high jumper, hurdler, triple jumper. But I haven't really had a space to be athletic in that way since high school, really. And so a lot of the ways that that has showed up is through dance. I'm an acrobatic dancer. And yeah, now I'm back in New York for a minute and finally get a chance to do this project. And so what we're doing is we're going to have a at the Shed on June 26th, we're gonna have a performance that looks and feels like a track and field meet, but some of the events are being performed traditional, straight up, and some of the events are gonna be performed through dance. We have Fred Lean is here, Bree is here, both people are on the team, and so if you wanna check it out, you can show up. Tickets, it's free and open to the public. Tickets are free. If you're in New York area, but it's also going to be live streamed. If you are, the ticket sales aren't released yet, but they will be on the Shed's website. The Shed is, let me write it in, theshed.org. So just theshed.org. And you can also follow at Celebrate Field Day on IG if you want to follow what we're doing. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today with Saifa, who I know from like, we were trying to calculate, but it's probably been 6-7 years or so, más o menos, from Oakland. And yeah, let me just read Saifa's bio just to give you an intro, but we're gonna get into all the work that he does and all the things that he is. Okay, so Sean Sexwell uses he, him, his pronouns, is a Black, queer, intersex activist, somatic practitioner, and rising scholar. He's currently pursuing his PhD at the University of Huddersfield as a Marie Sklodowska-Curie Fellow, examining the erasure of intersex people from social policy in Ireland and England. Saifa is committed to racial equity and a radical vision of bodily autonomy for intersex folks. As a co-founder of Intersex Justice Project, a grassroots initiative by intersex people of color, he is determined to end intersex genital surgery in the US. When he's not trying to persevere, when he's not trying to persevere, he's not trying to preserve brain cells for his program, you can find him chilling with his dog, Justice Tigers. Let me let tail in. Okay, so
give a shout to Justice.
What's that? Where's Justice right now?
He's laying down because I took him on a walk before coming on.
Okay, good, nice and tight. All right, so I would love to just jump right in with like the work that you're doing right now. Can you just tell us a little bit about your fellowship and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Manchester, England, and I am doing a, like you said, Marie Sklodowska-Curie Fellowship, looking at the erasure of intersex people from social policy in Ireland and England. And I think it comes out of, there's like robust equality frameworks in Ireland and in England. But none of those frameworks, for the exception of Scotland, which just passed a hate crimes bill this past year that includes intersex and sex characteristics. The equality legislation does not is not inclusive of intersex folks. So for me, it's sort of like sort of investigative research, looking at policy documents, and really trying to understand this context that I'm not familiar with, because I'm from the U.S., from the States, and so for me, being one thing I say all the time is that we all speak English, but woo, some of the English they be speaking over here, I'm like, huh? So yeah, that's that's what's happening.
Word. Okay, so you're doing this fellowship now, but you've been doing intersex activism and I think broader activism for like a long time, right? Can you tell us
17
more about
years.
that? 17 years.
Yeah, I was gonna put up a video on IG. I just haven't gotten around to it. But the first time that I actually spoke publicly about being intersex, besides like being out to friends, besides sort of, because I've always been visible, but it was in 2004 when the San Francisco Human Rights Commission did a hearing on intersex. And at the time, it was like the who's who of the intersex activist community. I didn't know any of those folks, right? I just heard that this thing was going on. And I was like, I got something to say. And, I saw the video and I'm just like, literally, I'm so young, right? Like this was in 2004. So I was 25 years old, still fresh from having moved from New York City. So my New York accent was thick, right? And just really giving testimony. It was like public comment. And people, throughout this hearing had given longer sort of testimony. And I shared like a few minutes of, I think I and other people during the public comment were only allotted like 3 minutes, right? But that was, for me, the start of just being really open about what happened to me, my story, and also like, what happened to people in my family.
Do you, I guess, first of all, could you share with us like what is intersex, just so people who are, this is their first time or are still getting familiar, can kind of understand a little bit about what intersex encompasses?
Yeah, of course. So intersex is defined as sex characteristics, right? So when we talk about sex characteristics, we mean hormones like testosterone and estrogen, chromosomes like XX, XY, XXY, gonads like testes and ovaries, and genitals. Parts are parts, right? Like penises, micropenises, vaginas, and all of these sex characteristics are considered atypical for male and female development. So that's kind of like the broad sort of definition of intersex. Unfortunately, for children who are identified as intersex at birth, they're often subject to harmful medical interventions to make their bodies, but particularly their genitals, appear normal, whatever the fuck that is.
And that's like usually surgeries, right? You're talking about.
Of course.
And those surgeries are happening on babies?
Yes.
Okay. So the idea, from what I understand, is like, generally speaking, we and like medical community think that there are only two sexes, male or female. And what's happening is that actually it's like an umbrella. I think right now people are starting to understand that gender is like not just one thing, right? Or not just these two things, the binary, right? We're like understanding that there's more to gender than just like this and this.
Right.
But in terms of sex, we like haven't really arrived there. And so there's like really a broader spectrum of like sex and sexual characteristics. And so in the hospitals, babies are being told, or like, I guess families, right, are being told it's one or the other. And so these medical interventions, these surgeries are happening, right? Is that?
Well, actually what's happening is that parents who give birth to children who are intersex are being told that their children are not normal.
Right.
That their children are not normal they're not healthy, and that they need sort of medical intervention. And, you know, for parents, it's, normal, quote, right? And, you know, for parents who are already scared, right, because they want their children to be normal, because they want their children to be, but regardless of normal or not, they want their children to be healthy, right? And medical providers are positioning intersex variations as not being healthy.
Right.
And I think so many scholars have said that these surgeries are done. I think particularly Suzanne Kessler has said, you know, these surgeries are done not for the infant, right? But for the culture in which the infant is born, right? Because doctors will always say, like, well, what would you do? Like, and when you leave your kid with the babysitter, what would they think, right? Or do you want your kids to be bullied in school? And I'm just like, whether you're intersex or not, you can still get it in high school, middle school, elementary school.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear surrounding people with visible intersex variations. And there's a lot of stigma and in turn silence.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me think, like, if kids are born, I don't know. I think there's this idea of, like, whether you're born gay or not, which I'm not interested in necessarily having that conversation personally. But it's like, can you imagine if like doctors were telling parents, oh, I think your baby is gay. Let's just go ahead and do this like medical intervention so that we can prevent your child from being gay in the future. That's like absurd, I think. So the idea that would be happening in terms of, like, you know, in this other way, in terms of like sex and sexual characteristics, that's like, it feels really absurd.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, when we think about it, and that's why for me, it feels very important to sort of free or liberate intersex identity from the medical establishment, right? Because when identity is pathologized, that's when you have these medical violations, right? So to your example, when you have, you know, for a long time, there was like gay conversion therapy, right? It was medically sanctioned. It was socially sanctioned, right? You know, for a long time, trans people were pathologized. It's just like within the last couple of years, when you didn't have gender identity listed as a disorder, right? So I think the bigger problem is that when you have identity that's sort of like regulated, policed by medicine, that's what allows these larger human rights violations to happen.
Yeah, that makes, but thank you for saying that. I think that makes so much sense. And I guess kind of to that point, or I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you see the fight for bodily autonomy for intersex people? How does that fit into like this fight for that like queer and trans people are on? Like, there's overlap, right? Do you feel like there's needs to be its own lane? Do you feel like it's like an intersectional kind of framework that needs to happen? What do you think?
Well, I think we all need our own lanes, right? Like, I think having your own lane is healthy, right? Like, I think there's differences between gay men and lesbians, between lesbians and bisexuals and trans folks and intersex folks, questioning asexual, pansexual. You know, I can go on and on, right? So the thing about it is like, I think there do need to be separate lanes because we all have different issues. But I do think it's important. We as queer folks should always be fighting for trans and intersex folks. Because for me, like, trans and intersex folks in particular, you know, our fight is around sex and gender diversity. And when we limit sex and gender diversity, then, especially when that happens by the state, I think it sets us all up for larger violations to happen, right? So, I remember, because I'm an old queer, I remember that trans folks got totally thrown under the bus by like folks, particularly in the HRC, right? The Human Rights Campaign.
Mhm.
And they didn't want to get behind the they didn't want the Sexual Orientation Non-Discrimination Act to be inclusive of gender identity,
Mhm.
right? And when we do that, then we see attacks on queer folks. So like our struggles are intertwined because we're all confronted with heterosexism,
Mhm.
right? And so I think we all should be responsible for these larger sort of forces of oppression that try to limit our identities.
Yeah, totally. I guess I would love for you to talk a little bit about your work with the Intersex Justice Project and like what that is, because I feel like it's such an amazing resource, actually, and I want for people to have like something to walk away with.
Yeah. So the Intersex Justice Project was co-founded in 2016.
Okay.
And it was founded by myself, Pigeon Pagonis, who's an intersex. I don't think they're doing activism, like low-key, intersex activist based in Chicago, as well as Lionel Stephanie Long, who's like a Black lesbian intersex. They're not doing activism right now, but intersex person. And for me, my dream, my desire, my vision for co-founding the Intersex Justice Project was that I felt, for me, I wanted to have a place where Black intersex people could feel safe, right? Because I think in these broader social justice movements, you have, women, disabled folks, sex workers, trans folks, queer folks, who are often overlooked, right? And I think for me, I wanted to have a place where I could feel safe. So we put out a statement for Intersex Awareness Day on October 26th. That was 2016. That was our first statement. And it was like the 20-year sort of anniversary of Intersex Awareness Day. And, we had came up with an idea to do a protest in front of Lurie Children's Hospital because Pigeon was harmed there as a child. And it seemed like a very radical idea at the time because you don't normally see former patients protesting a hospital, right? And one thing that I want to say is that intersex activism is important because it actually petitions for medical accountability. We treat doctors like gods, right? We don't question their authority, even though some of us have really fucked up experiences at the doctor, right? We still don't question because we often see doctors in our time of need, right? And so basically we had launched this what became almost a 3-year campaign against Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago to get them to end surgery. And it was hard fought, I think by the end, I was burned out, Pigeon was burned out. And, because hospitals are corporations, they only bowed to pressure because the state intervened, right? It was the state as well as social media. Because of that, they issued an apology to intersex people who were harmed at their facility. And they also said that they would do a moratorium on surgeries for 6 months, which is huge, right? No hospital, there might have been some here and there, but no sort of major hospital has apologized for what they have done to intersex folks, right? And shortly after Boston Children's, because of the work that has been done there for years, and it wasn't, IJP had nothing to do with that. It was another organization, Interact, as well as medical students and physicians at Boston Children's kind of pushed them to issue a kind of proclamation that they would stop clitoroplasties and vaginoplasties. So for people who don't know, clitoroplasties is sort of like the reduction or the removal, even though urologists say that they don't do this anymore, the reduction or the removal of the clitoris. And vaginoplasties are often done on girls. Mind you, both of these surgeries are done on girls. Vaginoplasties are done on infants and children to create a vagina. And so Boston Children said that they would ban these surgeries. But because the show must go on, they're probably referring these surgeries to Weill Cornell Medical Center in New York State. So the way it stands now, I'm the only one left at IJP. And for me, it's really about strategizing and seeing who is willing to sort of take up the mantle, right? Because it can't be intersex people doing this work, right? Intersex folks are healing, intersex folks are doing other things besides activism, and they should, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's really incumbent upon allies to really take up this fight. And I think part of it is for people to get curious about their own intersex status, right? Because, you know, anyone on this call, I think there's one person on this call who, besides myself, who identifies as intersex, but we don't know who's intersex and who's not, right? And I think we'll be, you know, we might be surprised by what we find, you know?
What could that look like? What do you mean? Like, what do you recommend in terms of like getting curious?
Yeah, so I talk a lot about this, but there is a particular variation some people refer to as a medical condition called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's very common. I think it's estimated that like 8% of people who are assigned female at birth have PCOS. And, you know, for me, I think about, you know, I've talked about PCOS, and it possibly could be considered an intersex variation based on the definition that was shared earlier, right? And there's a couple of folks I know who had PCOS, and when they actually got genetic testing done, one person found out that they had ovotestes, ovotesticular syndrome, which is another intersex variation. And another person found out that they had non-classical CAH, which is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So we just don't know. We just really don't know. And I think, you know, sort of like people embracing a gender diversity, right? Like people being like, I'm trans, I'm non-binary, I'm agender, right? Like, I think we really need to be like, we really need to start questioning sex, right? And acknowledging that sex is also fluid, just like gender's fluid, right?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for offering that. Okay, I want to change subjects a little bit. I would love to talk about Caster Semenya a little bit. Okay, so let's see. Let me share my screen just a minute, and then I'll talk to y'all about, let's do it this way. All right, I just want to give people a visual. Okay, so this is Caster Semenya. This is their IG, obviously. Some photos. Their like IG is usually these either really nice photos or like portraits, or these really inspirational quotes, or like fuck y'all, I'm still here to do me. It's great. I love it. Okay, so I'm just gonna, let me stop sharing this, but I just want to read a little bit about Caster Semenya. This is coming straight from Wikipedia, but Caster Semenya is a South African middle distance runner. So for those of y'all who are not that familiar with track and field, one lap around the track is 400 meters. And so Caster does the 800 meters. That's like her event, which is considered middle distance. It's probably the hardest event because you're definitely a sprinter, but you're also like fatiguing so quickly because it's kind of long. So I just feel like it takes so much to be a middle distance runner. They're kind of like the middle child also of like track and field, because they're not the like short, they're not the like Usain Bolt's like 100 meters, but they're also not like, you know, running miles and miles and miles. It's like right in the middle. So, okay. So Caster Semenya's like got 2 Olympic gold medals, 3 world championships in the 100 meters. She first won the world championships in 2009 and went on to win the 2016 Olympics and 2017 world championships. Also 1500 meters, which is slightly like less than a mile. So this says that Semenya is an intersex woman, assigned female at birth. To my knowledge, Caster Semenya has never come out or identified as intersex. But what we do know is that Caster has naturally elevated testosterone levels. The reason that we know that is because Caster has been in international court for years battling like whether or not she will be allowed to continue to run her races. So this says, following her victory at the 2009 World Championships, she was made to undergo sex testing and cleared to return to competition the following year. In 2019, New World Athletics, formerly called the IAAF, so like sports governing body, they ruled, so new rules came into force preventing women like Semenya from running the 400, the 800, and the 1500 for some reason these middle distances, unless they take medication to suppress their testosterone levels. So she's been back and forth in court, like being denied the ability to run, then like being allowed back and forth. Basically saying like, this is fucked up, you can't do this to me, I'm not taking drugs to suppress like what's naturally occurring in my body. So right now she is not allowed to compete in the Olympics. That's like the update, but honestly it's this summer, right, in Tokyo. So it's just been back and forth this whole time. So the reason that I really especially love like her quotes on Instagram that are just like so just powerful and also sometimes snarky and just like I'm the best, y'all. You know, nothing's gonna keep me away from like running and being as good as I am. I'm not like changing who I am. So Caster's an out lesbian, has a wife, lots of cute photos of them together on Instagram too, if you want to follow that for that reason. But yeah, so I think that there's for me and this project for Field Day, Caster is such an icon for this project of someone who's just like, I am who I am. I'm proud of who I am. I have worked really hard to get to where I am and to be the best that I can be. And I want an opportunity to showcase like what I'm working with. And I don't want, and like, fuck y'all for telling me that I need to do anything else. So just super inspirational. So I guess I'm curious, just for you or for anyone here as well, like what do you feel like we can learn, or what can we take away from how Caster Semenya has been like handled in the public eye, right? Whether that's like sports governing bodies or whether that's the media. What do you feel like we should be paying attention to or learning about like all of this like debacle?
Ooh, I mean, I think it's just so layered, right?
Right.
And I know people have been hearing that term layered a lot recently.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's layered in the sense of, we have to remember that Castor was a young person when all of this broke, right? Like, I think they were like 19,
Yeah.
they were like still a child, right? And they were young, sort of like having their personal medical business sort of leaked to the press without their informed consent. Like that was just, I mean, I feel like the court of arbitration, the International Association of Athletic Federation, they need to really be, they need to be shut down, because I think they have systematically targeted athletes from the global south. They have targeted intersex athletes or athletes with sex variations. And, like I shared with you before, Anna, the athletes have to, it's a way of, again, perpetrating violence on intersex bodies, because if an athlete is found to have elevated testosterone or atypical genitals or atypical chromosomes or hormones, not only do they have to take hormone blockers and medications, but they also have been subject to surgeries, right? Sort of like genital normalizing surgeries. So again, it's just like, this violence that keeps getting replicated, whether it be in medical settings or whether it be in sports settings, right? And, for me, it's sort of like all related, right? Like the anti-trans bills that are happening in the States are related to what is happening with Caster Semenya, right? It's a way of, again, sort of limiting sex and gender diversity and policing people's sex and gender, right? Because the thing is, if there might have been a way that sort of they would have found out that Castor may have had, different hormones and sort of chromosomes going on, right? But the thing about it is that because of Castor's gender presentation, because she's very masculine, right? And because of that, then they're like, oh, wait, she's really a man and men can't compete with women. So we have to do all this testing.
Right.
It was like a witch hunt, right? And so I just feel like the reason why I brought up that example of what's happening in the States and what's happening in Caster Semenya is this like, it's a way, this is like a way of sort of reifying or solidifying what is man and what is woman, right? And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That is very dangerous. It's dangerous for trans folks and it's dangerous for intersex folks.
It's also like, I think that there's this idea that testosterone makes you better, like like having, or like, which means being a man makes you like superior. I think there's a conversation there about superiority and like why we can't have Castor, why we can't have men compete against women. That's really, it's so basic and really just like, it's like this very backwards old idea of like superiority.
Right.
Too. I think that's like part of it too for me that is really frustrating. With this event with Field Day, one of the things that we're doing is just everyone so it's for queer and trans people, and the broad like range of what that means. And there's no like designation there's no separation between people. We're just having everyone like perform, run, whatever together. And that's something that I'm attempting. I'm not sure if that's like necessarily the answer or not, but I think for me, at least, it feels good to try and to like get a sense of how people are feeling about that within this context. I you know, last week I had a conversation with Cece Telfer, who is a Black trans hurdler, who's really trying to qualify for the Olympics right now, like in the next like week, trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. And she's very adamant about competing with women. She's a trans woman, she's a woman. So she wants to compete with women. And she's like, there's no part of me that wants to compete with men. It doesn't make any sense for me. And so I think that I think that at least in sports, I'm really curious to talk with intersex people, with trans people, with non-binary people in particular, to like think about, well, what is it that we want? Where do we want to fit in? Where do we not want to be a part of? What's important for us to like hold on to, and what parts of these sports like are we wanting to change? So yeah, it's just a larger thing that I'm like curious about through this artistic project, but yeah, it's just something that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, and I wanted to sort of speak to something you mentioned earlier. Is just like, I feel like the reason why they're able to do these witch hunts, the reason why they're able to sort of out someone or share someone's personal medical business is that they're playing on people's ignorance around biology, right? Because testosterone and all of this shit is made up. You know, as human beings, we make meaning, right? So we assign chromosomes, like XX is male, XY is male, XX is female, right? Testosterone is a male hormone, estrogen is a female hormone, right? And it really doesn't take into account a lot of the nuance, right? So like for myself, for example, like I have XY chromosomes, but I'm insensitive to testosterone. So for me, it's like, you know, the way my body responds to testosterone, you know, there probably have been many people with AIS, which is like the intersex variation that I have, who've competed, right? So like, and you know, to say that someone has testes or that they have testosterone that will put them at an advantage is just unfounded and not true, right? But I think it's because of, I think doctors know this, but I think to the lay person, they're just really playing upon people's ignorance around biology.
Yeah, totally. Which I like a lot. Ignorance is a lot of the way that people, like these systems are just playing on ignorance in general in so many different ways. All the time we see it, and fears that come along with that ignorance as well. I want to change the subject again just a little bit.
Totally.
So I know that you're an artist and a somatic practitioner. I would love if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I feel like I put my art on pause, more like it put me on pause. So I feel like my art mediums are like collage, as well as video. So, you know, I remember I had a conversation with this trans artist. His name is Micah Bazant. He does like a lot of political art. And I remember we were talking about just like, just the phases that you go through with making art.
Yeah.
And
I'm
like,
here.
woo, you know what I'm saying?
It's like,
whoa, yo,
Yeah.
yo, you know what I'm saying? And so I just feel like with me, like I'm just in this phase right now where I just haven't had the gumption to make art. And I think part of it is like my mom died in 2017. And I think when that happened, I think something shifted, right? And so I think part of me is still grieving in a way. And I think sort of like my visual art has been sort of put on hold. And so I hope to sort of pick it up one day. And I think after this fellowship, I'm like, oh, I'm going to need to do something else because I'm not going to want to read for a while. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And with somatic practitionership, I arrived to being a somatic practitioner when I recognized the limitations of my own body and the limitations of my own healing. So what does that mean? When I lived in the Bay, where we met, Anna, there was an organization called Generation 5, whose goal was to end child sexual abuse in 5 generations. Mm-hmm. And I did a training in 2008. It was a child sexual abuse training. And every day after the training, like my body just totally like locked up, right? And for me, I got really curious because I didn't consider myself a survivor of child sexual abuse, but I survived medical violence, mm-hmm. right? And it's still a somatic response. And so when I told my friend who is a somatic practitioner, she's like, you're having a somatic response to the material. And I was like, what? So then I was like, oh, I got to find out about this. And then I started doing trainings with this organization called Generative Somatics. And I really found it to be powerful, right? Because this particular lineage, because there's different lineage around somatic awareness, but it's really addressing trauma in the body, but also how trauma is shaped by oppression, right? Like we can't divorce our identities sometimes from our traumas, right? And I think for me, I've just been on that journey. And I think part of my wanting and my desire to learn this lineage is because I want to bring that healing to the people I care about, to communities, right? Because I think we often are disconnected from our bodies for the sake of survival, right? For the sake of survival, for the sake of belonging. And so for me, it's all part of, I think at the heart of it, my intersex activism and my somatic practitionership is a way to recover what was taken away from me, right? And it won't look the same, right? It's sort of like with collage making. It won't look the same because they're different pieces, but you can make beautiful art from these different pieces, right? And I think that's how I sort of look at healing and, trauma and recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like it's all this, like your activism, your art, and somatic work is all about healing like yourself and also sharing that with people, which is beautiful and amazing. And also I think, there's always like this emphasis I feel on people really like going deep in one thing, and that's kind of specializing, that's the only thing. But I think that it's people like you who really like are deeply valued, and I think really think about the world in a particular way, are able to really see how they can be doing that work in so many different kinds of ways. And I think that I just want to say, as an artist myself, I want to say that it's important, even when you're not like producing work or feeling like you're in it, it's all part of the artistic process. Taking space away from art is also part of the process. And yeah, you're probably like doing all this research, not just in your like fellowship, but just in your life, that is adding to the art that you make. So congratulations on being where you are with your work.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
It's hard to feel like, wow, am I only a grant writer actually? Like, am I only ever begging for money and not whenever an artist? It's hard to be an artist, and so important too, though.
I mean, amen to all that.
Okay, so I think that we are ready to wrap a little bit soon. So I want to just say, if anyone has any questions or any comments, now's a great time to chime in. I actually just want to read this this comment here. Actually, two. So Alyssa said, Saifa, thank you for sharing your brilliance with all of us. Always supportive of you and your work. That's the homie, right?
That's a homie. Yes.
Okay. And then Akuf, yes, there's such a juxtaposition of the handling of Caster Semenya and to say Michael Phelps. The discursive violence, yeah, totally right. The discursive violence with Semenya just highlights that there is a societal fixation with a universalized system of binary oppositions regarding gender and sexuality. And this fixation is inextricably bound up with the broader patriarchal capitalist system. So
facts.
Yes,
facts.
All the way. Thank you. Thank you so much for offering that. It's so true. Michael Phelps, I feel like they're just like, yeah, what a gift. He's tall. He's got these long arms. Cool. He smokes weed. We love him.
Right.
That's like the whole conversation about Michael Phelps. Is like,
he's a white guy.
And he's
love
a white
to see it.
Tall white guy. Yeah. And of course, like that's like not the conversation at all with Caster Semenya, period.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that you didn't get to say that feels like burning?
Shout out to Macy. What's up? How you doing?
Hey, Macy.
Glad you came through.
Hi, hello.
Yo.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to say thank you to you both for this. I always find it just, I just feel like every time I take part in these things, I learn something more. And I gotta say, like, Saifa, I only came across you this year, and you were the first person that I had ever seen talk about intersex people. And I remember watching the short video of you on Instagram, and I was like, what is this whole thing that I just had no idea about? How have I lived this long and not known about a whole community of people? And so it's really, yeah, I'm just really grateful. So thank you. But continue what you're saying.
Nah, you've been so supportive and so great. Thank you so much, Macy. That really means a lot. Just high praise. Yeah, I don't really have anything. Like, I feel like we covered a lot of range.
We
right?
did. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, you know, I think for me, at the heart of it, like, I just want people to be able to consent to surgeries that they want for their lives. Right. I mean, like, people get all kinds of body modification. I got so many damn tattoos, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I chose, right? Like, when I broke my wrist, like, I wanted to find, my dominant hand of all places. I wanted to find the best surgeon who would address it, right? I think what's happening to young people, young intersex people, regardless of what doctors say, this shit is still happening, right? And, you know, I do want to share, like, one story. Like, I met up with someone yesterday, another intersex person, 15 years younger than me, right? And we had dinner, and this person was, like, crying, right? Because they were just like, what happened to me wasn't fair, right? Like, I couldn't consent to that, right? And I feel like, you know, doctors would be like, oh, we don't do that anymore, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm still hearing stories. Like, I'm still getting contacted by parents being like, the doctors are pressuring me to make a decision that I don't want to make, right? Like, there was a mom who reached out to me not too long ago, young, Dominican, you know, 20 years old, young mom, reached out to me, and literally the doctor had called CPS, right? Yeah. Which is Child Protective Services, called CPS on her because she didn't want to do surgery on her kid, right? So this is what we're still up against, right? For even parents who want to make the right decision. So I think you know, what I would leave people with is like continue to get educated, continue to like, you know, seek us out, find us, get curious about your own lives, get curious about your own experiences. Yeah, and free Palestine. You know what I'm
Free
saying?
Palestine. Thank you.
Palestine, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you for that. We cover everything here.
Yeah.
We do it all. How can we support you and support your work?
Yesenia. Well, can I punt it to Yesenia, because I think Yesenia is dope, and I really love when Yesenia just talks their shit. So, Yesenia.
I was actually going just a little bit back on the parent experience because actually, so I'm based in Germany, and in Germany there has been a new law who is being claimed to be against surgeries for intersex children. But of course there's a but, and that's something that upsets, like, literally, can I swear in here? Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm always asked this because you don't know who's listening, and I swear a lot. So maybe children around, you don't know, and they catch up shit. So I'm gonna swear anywho. So so that really upsets the shit out of me, because still we having a ban of intersex surgery, and it has still like this gap in this new law that actually, I think it was official yesterday. I think it was yesterday. So, and now still we have gaps where it's still defined that doctors still between the lines can perform intersex surgery. So we have a law that says no, but it's not a stop. And I think that's something that we should also keep talking about how pathologization, that's the word, still keeps going on, because it doesn't, like, who is doing that, in which interest these laws are, like, who is doing them? It's not an intersex person who is saying that and who knows their shit. It's still a cis white dude doing laws. And I think that's something why intersex work and intersex education is so important also on a wider scale, because when we have laws like this, still doesn't change the fact that shit can happen, that there are no control instances for it, that there are not funded institutions who are not within the system. So I think that's something that we don't talk so much, that there is still so no connection between intersex folks. Like, exactly what the person wrote, I'm not gonna write because that's none of my business, but yeah, it's still a medical disorder. So this is something huge. And it's like, first people get so excited about laws and it's gonna be changed. And then you look literally and you see, like, you have still so much work to do. And I think that's why I see the part of the allyship and how much important it is that allyship exists, but still, like, you have to find ways to connect with people and to have also intersex communities just going bold outside, because there's so much shit going on, especially when you're not white and intersex. That was my 2 comments.
Thank you.
Yes, Yesenia.
I really, thank you so much, Yesenia. I really appreciate you adding that and offering that. And I think for me, what's nice here is knowing that we're all coming from like different places, like in the world, but also just our own experiences. So I really appreciate like everyone who's been chiming in the chat and on video. And I also feel like it's family a little bit in here, and it's cute. It's cute in here.
Yeah, it is cute. Look at everybody.
All right. I put a link earlier to the Intersex Justice Project website. I'll do it again. I'm also gonna add your website, which is very well done as a web designer, I just want to say. Thank you.
Yo, you know, I'm doing a little barter.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm very grateful for the graphic designer.
Yeah.
And
what's your Instagram handle again?
Saifa, Saifa merges.
Emerges.
EMEGR Wait, no, RGES.
Emerge.
Yes, there I go. There I go. Couldn't spell for a second.
And the Intersex Justice Project, is that on Instagram too?
Mm-hmm.
Justice Project. Okay, so y'all please follow and check out the work.
Oh.
The Intersex Justice Project is put as like there's always a lot of really wonderful content there. Take some deep dives onto that. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, and check out Intersex IJP because it's just Pride season is coming. So now they're just like, where's the trans? Where's the intersex? It's so annoying. But definitely like, check out IJP year round because I try to see what's happening like out there and really post shit that's like engaging and that is affirmative of Black and people of color who are intersex.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your knowledge and your expertise, but also the way that you are so easy to talk to and so chill, which I think is so important as well. It makes it really easy to learn from you and to just connect. And thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing, and good luck with your fellowship and your research. And I hope you have lots of brain cells to work on maybe some art or some somatic or nothing.
Right. Definitely still doing somatic work. Like that has been really great for me. I really love that for me. Yeah.
I love that for you too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right, thank you again so much. This conversation is being recorded and will go up on the Celebrate Field Day website, celebratefieldday.com. If you want to share it with other people, please do. There will be like a quick clip on our Instagram page, which is at the same place. All righty, thank y'all so much for being here, and we'll call it.
Yo, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for showing up, showing out.
Thank you.
Bye, Saifa.
Bye, everyone.
Yo, bye, Azenia. Bye, Macy.
Bye.
Bye, Cole.
All right. Bye, Saifa. Thank you so much.
Yo, take care.
Yeah. Have a good one.